Here. What's up, chat? Happy Tuesday. This is a throwback. I'm not NGL, as the kids would say. Yeah. I guess I could add it to the mix. I had the whatchamacallit, the I don't know if it's lo-fi hip hop instrumental that we started using for baseball, because baseball gets kind of monotonous, boring. It's literally me talking to myself and no animated thoughts or anything like that. So it was something to break up the monotony. But yeah, that is a banger. It is a banger. You know what I really miss is, for a season I streamed on Twitch for these breakdowns, and I was using like copyrighted music. Man, the Seven Nation Army before the show. Oh, it just smacks. It just smacks. What up, Nate D? What up, Dexter? What up, Dylan? Crispy, Paul, Jeff, David, Stacks, Gilbert, Powell, Nightmare, and Steve Leibowitz. Man, you guys are awesome. I hope you guys are having a good day, and I hope you guys had a good night last night. Quick reflection last night. Your slate leader in fantasy points over on DraftKings, James Harden, 29 points, 9 rebounds, 11 assists, and that was one of those. He did it in 35 minutes. I was gonna say that was one of those 12-point spread games where you worried about blowout. I also believe Joel Embiid got a little bit of foul trouble there, so it did kind of tip the scale for Mr. Harden. Oh, look at that! There's another banger. All right, I have to switch back to the lo-fi. Where's that playlist at? There we go. What up, Tim? What up, Live Life? Let's do that. Okay. Lillard, Simons, and Hero saved my lineups last night. I won't be playing Jokic until he can prove he's worth that salary. Just like he's worth that price anymore. Not only that, but there's a lot of inefficient pricing still from early on in the season. So you're still able to capitalize on guys like Hero that, if we're being honest, if Hero's playing this role based on the sample size that we have thus far, he's probably shouldn't be in the 6Ks, right? And then I guess you can make a case those big centers need a little bit more time to condition or whatever. But also remember Jokic and the Sunshine Gang last season. Monte Morris and just a bunch of low usage guys. He's got Michael Porter Jr. back. He's got Jamal Murray back. So there's certainly a little bit of resistance, if you will, for him to have more downside at 11K than needing to be the usage hog, the high responsible guy. So something to think about. John Morant, 63 fantasy points last night. Kyrie Irving, 62. 39 minutes for Kyrie, 37 real points, 8 rebounds. And then Desmond Bane, 38 points, 7 assists in 32 minutes. With Dylan Brooks back, right? What up, Mahatub? Ahmed, appreciate the sub, man. Welcome to the channel. Nikola Vucevic, you narrative guys got this one, I guess. 54 fantasy points for that. 23 rebounds for old Vooch. Dame Dollar making money ain't new to him. 31 real points. He had 54 fantasy points. A 50 fantasy point game from Kevin Porter. Another one basically from Siakam, Julius Randle. There was a lot of 50 bombs last night. So the balanced approach was very viable. I think if we're remembering storylines of that slate, we pretty much all expected Garuba to be the can't miss value of the century, with Şengün down, with Bruno Fernando down, and then Garuba played 11 minutes, did not start, and I believe in the first quarter Boban got minutes before he did, even though he only got 4 total. So NBA DFS, man, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. It's great. What up? Tonight's the night. We went on DFS. Let's go, Yo, I'm gonna call you Mo. Is that cool? That's what's up, Mo. But tonight's a much smaller slate. 4 games, enough to peruse through, come away with a little bit of a player pool, and hopefully have some leans and maybe zig where the field is zagging. But yeah, lots of big scores last night. So I hope you guys did well. I actually dabbled. I just out of boredom, right after lock. I didn't have baseball to watch, so I was like, what can I do? And I was looking through the lobby, and I tried a single game FanDuel with Memphis and Brooklyn, and I crushed it. But I didn't realize FanDuel single game was so unique, where it had 3 positions that are multipliers. So it definitely like made it funky. Luckily, Fantasy Cruncher's already like built to script that. But yeah, now I'm like thinking, do I want to start attacking some of these niche after-hour slates with less content and maybe less I don't know. But it was something to maybe think about. And if I keep doing it and seeing success, I might put up some members only videos. What up, Lil Detroit? Hope you're doing all right. Need some winners today. Gun behind him. It's okay, Aaron. Aaron, did you bet against Mike Trout or something? Tub. All right, bet. Can we get some better background music? I mean, it's a playlist. I don't. If you guys know of royalty-free, YouTube-safe music, that's still vibing, you can maybe send it to me on Twitter or leave a comment later with like a link to it, and I'll run it. But yeah, we could just do no music, but it's whatever. Is Luka a lock in large field? I mean, his projection is going to be insane with, I got, 59, so I think at early look, yeah, that was the highest on the slate. So, lock is a strong word. In large field, almost never used the lock, especially for, like, a guy that's probably going to be decently owned. And in large field, you kind of want to have a more contrarian lens on life. But I guess we'll get into that in a second. I'm going to pull up ownerships. Ugh. There we go. What's up, KJ? Here. How do you feel about the injuries? Does it help us on DFS? I mean, in-game injuries, no. And that's for every sport. But pre-game injuries where guys are either late scratch before the game tips off or just don't start. Generally, I feel like it's a positive for sharper players because you can find and extrapolate the value a little bit better. But I also do feel like we're getting a little bit trolled with some of the next man up situations like the Houston Rockets. And I already know that Pacers front court is going to be the death of me all year. Jalen Smith, I think a game-to-game is going to be the safest, but trying to figure out like Isaiah Jackson, Goga, I don't even know about figuring it out, but just looking up at the end of the night and some time machine traveler has those guys in his lineups, and yeah. But generally, I think it's a plus as long as it's not in game, you know. I'm getting more Curry and Booker stacks fading Luka today. Hope I don't get burned. Let me see. Luka's the highest owned player, I do believe. At last glance, and it looks like he's significantly the highest player, which creates, I mean, 50% of the field or close to it's going to be having this one guy on a 4-game slate. It's certainly a stance to make, and I don't think there's a wrong stance, right? But I think if you like your lineups that are already correlated and get away from half the field with Booker versus Steph, I certainly wouldn't push back. What is Steph's ownership? Because Steph's look fine, and it's kind of put to rest any conditioning concerns. Yeah, Steph's like a fourth of the ownership. That's cool. We should probably do some research here. Let me get my screen set up. Let me open up a notepad in case we get some props. I didn't like the prop board yesterday. I felt like I was forcing. I'd imagine a 4-gamer today. I'm not going to be in love with it either, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Get this out. All right, let's bust open second screen. And let's set up the spreadsheet. Oh, that's it. Hey, it auto-save. Let's go. Hey, this stream is brought to you by RunDFS.com. If you guys want the spreadsheets I'll be referencing throughout the duration of this stream, my player pool, stuff like that. Behind the paywall at rundfs.com. When you click VIP memberships, you'll see a couple options for you. This is the last week, I believe, the season pass is going to be up. And then, of course, we have the 2023 year pass. Every membership we have comes with a voucher towards Fantasy Cruncher. It's the optimizer I use to manage my portfolio of lineups for every sport that I play. And even to play some of those more niche, less popular slate types. The tiers, the single game stuff on FanDuel. And those in the second half, I remember I've banked a couple second half NFL contests just by having Fantasy Cruncher, being able to click a button. Last year when McCaffrey got hurt on, I think it was Thursday Night Football, I banked the second half because I was able to go get Chuba Hubbard while 40% of the field still had McCaffrey. But anyway, every membership comes with a Cruncher voucher, so you could rebate it down. When you do sign up, afterwards, click VIP portal. There'll be links to the spreadsheet. The most important link, in my opinion, to get is the Discord link to the rundfs.com VIP Discord. It's right here. And then typically before lock, outside of maybe like Sunday nights, I'm in the voice chat, or if I have another obligation. And we're just kind of hanging out, making player pools, making lineups, and you guys are free to join and join the conversation. Grab a mic, have fun with us. So if you guys will hit that thumbs up button, we'll do some game by game analysis, and we'll see if we can't carve out a little bit of a player pool. Here, what up, Chuck, the homie? You doing any more PrizePicks shows? Hey, Duranzo, it is on my wish list. That means a lot to me, and it's an important priority. I'm currently scouting for some I guess analysts. I put up a couple tweets. Not really getting like great return on those tweets, but the hope and the intention is to get some more prop content, because I have a couple of partnerships that would behoove that. But that is the hardest one. I did some prop content over the weekend on Saturday for Stochastic. It is so hard to do that type of content, especially prepackaged content, because the boards are ever changing throughout the day, and they're usually pretty slim in the morning. So the best window for me to do the prop centric shows would be either right before this show or right after this show. And I think last year we did right before, which worked out. Playmaker, man, I appreciate the sub. Welcome to the channel. How are you? You think SGA actually plays, or Thunder trolling? I don't know what they're doing. The Thunder are also going to be one of those teams this year. I would lean closer to SGA being in than out, but it's just a lean. We'll look at blurbs and whatnot, try and get a feel, but I'm leaning in. That's how I'll project it. But I must admit, while I dislike Trout, he's a big Eagles fan, and I'm a huge Cowboys fan. I love them boys. What am I looking for here? Chat. A couple years ago, I parted ways with my football foundation when Mr. Dave Gettleman traded away all my favorite players, including my favorite player. Now that Gettleman's gone, and the Giants are having the season that they're having, I'm looking at this. I unblocked him on Twitter. You might find me one of these days by the end of the season, rocking the Giants beanie again. But yeah, the NFC East rivalry is a beautiful one. SGA might smash for no Giddey. Yeah, SGA could have smashed no matter what, but especially without Giddey would be the expectation. I think the tricky part is to figure out who else will thrive in his absence. What up, Vic? What up, Absolute Power? Hope you guys are doing all right. All right, let's jump into game one. Pistons at the Wizards. Project starting five for the Pistons: Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Sadiq Bey, Bojan Bogdanovic, Isaiah Stewart taking on Monte Morris, Bradley Beal, Denny Avdija, Kyle Kuzma, and Kristaps Porzingis. So we got 220 total, 5.5 point spread in favor of the home team, Washington Wizards. And this is the first game of the slate. It's the first game at lock. It is a 30-minute barrier between the second game, and it looks like every game is kind of staggered. So you get 30 minutes between the first three games and then the 10 o'clock game. There's a really good exercise your late swap probability slate if you have the time tonight, and just kind of play off of your success or your failures in your lineups from game one, and especially the first couple games. So matchup wise and projection wise, Cade Cunningham coming in with a solid projection. Also want to talk about the differences in mindset that I have from a slate like last night, a 10-12 gamer, to a slate like tonight, a 4 gamer. I'm a little bit more focused on floor than ceiling, because I think the likelihood of 10-50 fantasy point games is far less probable than a night like tonight when there's only 4 teams. So I can be a little bit more lenient in the expectation, right? We're still seeking ceiling, but I do think our lineups are more likely to thrive, or lineups are more likely to be optimal tonight, or I want to say win first place tonight, not necessarily optimal, with guys that maybe 4.5 return their price point, 5 point, something like that. We're on a mega slate. You probably need 8 X's through and through with a couple 60 bombs. So just a little bit of game theory to discuss as we go. So basically what I mean by that is some of these 30s that come back for like Sadiq Bey, Bojan, Isaiah Stewart aren't as appealing on a slate like last night, but tonight they could fill a role. So the 220 total here, 5.5 points spread in favor of the home team, Washington Wizards. Not big news to track that we didn't already have. Corey Kispert out, Marvin Bagley, Alec Burks out, and then I'm just running off projections here. No, nothing crazy. I think 40 plus fantasy points for Cade Cunningham is fine. We can go pull up our on-off court tool via Add More Funds, the NBA Wowie, and then I do want to bring it to this season for a team like the Pistons. Cade better go for 50. Let's go. Any suggestions for a mobile tablet-friendly optimizer? I picked the wrong team, didn't I? Or I gotta pick a team. Just put Cunningham on the court and get a specific number that we were working with so far. We know down the stretch last season was really, really big in the usage department. So far this season, 26% usage rate, a 31% assist rate. That's really good. And the over a fantasy point per minute, all the Pistons starting 5 are coming in averaging over a fantasy point per minute. So I think that's why the modest 30-point projections coming in on everybody is something I'm fine with. And then on the Wizards side, I feel like I've been chasing this Bradley Beal game for a minute, and I understand kind of like the Jokic situation with guys like Porzingis, with Kuzma evolving as a player in a different role that doesn't involve being second to LeBron. I think the Bill ceiling games are going to be fewer and far between, but I'm borderline at the slot machine, and he still has the team high usage rate of 25%. So I'll still be out there tonight on Mr. Bill. What was the Bill ownership that I was looking at earlier? It's 1-4 owned, so, or 1-5 owned. No, 1-4. No, 1-5 math. So I still get there. I think I'm a little less aggressive on Wizards specifically. I would also say on a smaller slate, I am a little bit more inclined to buy into some game stacks, and I think this one might be economically sound enough to invest in a 2v2 or a 3v3 or a 3v2, something like that. More so leaning the 3 for like the Pistons than the Wizards, but you could make a case for me on both sides. For Bradley Beal, under 8K on FanDuel, looking for 40 plus, I'll take it. Same with DraftKings. Kuzma is a more uncomfortable click, but this is more of a historical uncomfortability. Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah. Where we've seen these spike games, we also feel like the median outcome is like a mid-30s, which I know I can deal with a little bit less, but I feel like a 30 from a 7K today it would kind of hurt a little bit more than like a 25 from a 5K. Porzingis under 8K on both sides. We know he has 40 plus fantasy points. So if I had to make a podium on interest, I actually might be Porzingis 1. Just because so far the Pistons have also shown an ability to give up a lot of blocks per game, and Porzingis is a guy that will likely get us a couple blocks per game from the Department of Redundancy department. Team DVP, I didn't put in last night's game, but neither one of these teams played. Detroit, oh no, I want metrics. Detroit blocks per game allowed so far. They're leading the league, so I think it's a good defensive stat night for Kristaps Porzingis should he stay out of foul trouble. So I think I might put Porzingis 1 on the priority list, then Bill, then Kuzma, and then we could spin the wheel, make a deal with Monte Morris. Pistons podium for me is probably going to be Cunningham. And then I'm cool with stocking stuffers of Babe, Bojan, and Isaiah Stewart. No pushback there. No priority there because I feel like they are often just the same play. And then Jaden Ivey. What do you guys want to do with Jaden Ivey? Almost 7K on DraftKings. 39, 31, 34. Generally at an almost 7K price point for ceiling mentality. I probably want to break through to that 40-plus fantasy point threshold. And the Pacers is as good of a matchup you're going to get. You still kind of struggle to break through that magic number. We can feel good about the double-digit shot attempts. And last game, we did get some more rebounds. It might be a little bit fluffy because of the matchup. So I think so far we just got to project them for mid to low 30s, and that's what the model came back. About 30 fantasy points, a little less than on both sides. So maybe the price on Ivy is going to be a little too rough to get behind, but that's kind of the knee-jerk reactions to what this game is offering on the surface. If you guys have some strong leans here, definitely shoot them out. Let me know. But yeah, I think the Porzingis, if we had to make a game podium, is it Porzingis Cunningham as my favorite correlation, I guess you could say, then Beal, and then we just kind of fill in the rest. Kuzma. I wish I had more confidence in Kuzma game to game because he'd be killing it, but I don't. So I think Kuzma, Porzingis, then Cunningham, then Beal. Yeah. That redundancy line kills me every time. You know where I got that from, right? When I was a kid, man, my favorite guy was Stuart Scott. That's one of his lines. I use a lot of lines that Stu did, but Department of Redundancy Department is one of my favorites. Beal or Booker? Probably Booker, but I wouldn't push back on Beal. Ownership is going to likely be more in the Booker side. Yeah, it is. At least that last client. So Booker is probably, I think their projection is going to be similar. Let me see. Devin Booker 47, Beal 44. So there's a 3-point margin of difference. So like depending on what your your deviation is on that projection or your range of outcomes there, I guess the question is, do you think, how do we think about that? 8% probability, or is he 8% more likely to outscore Devin Booker, or is Devin Booker 8% more likely to outscore Bradley Beal? I would probably say yes, maybe even more so, just because of the offense basically running through Devin Booker, whereas the Wizards can be a little bit flatter in the sense of urgency to score against a team like the Pistons. Probably not going to be as intense as a team like the Warriors. So in a shorter spectrum, I would probably say my preference would be Devin Booker, without overthinking the ownerships and whatnot. Ownership gap's not that egregious for a 4-game slate, but there is an 8% difference. What do you think about Will Barton? He played 35 minutes against the Cavs, only 4,900. Let's look at that. Let's go rotations. Washington. Long live Stu Scott. Man, Stu was the GOAT. Mr. Barton. Barton played 35 minutes. He did play all of overtime for 5 minutes. And that was the game Denny got hurt. He came in for Denny and closed out, basically. Right? And Denny's back, right? Ankle will actually be active for Friday's matchup with the correct. Yeah. But Denny left. Denny wasn't like a giant minute guy anyway. Maybe I got that backwards. But I don't know, I guess I wouldn't push back. These smaller states, it would be fine to find some diamonds in the rough. And Will Barton, maybe if he's going to have less overlap with the starters, that's probably a net positive for his per minute production. And I guess at 4,400, you wouldn't even need 35 minutes. You could probably live on a 25-minute projection and live with 20 plus on a 4-gamer. And that's kind of what we saw on opening night. So I guess the answer would be, I don't mind it. Washington, let's put Barton on so far. Just kind of see his overall body of work. When Barton's on the court, he has a 21% usage rate, so not too bad. An average 21%. I guess we could say Barton on, Beal off, but it's probably going to be like 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. Cooler than the other side of the pillow. Bartender Jack. Oh, I love Stuart Scott. 27% usage rate when Barton's on the court and Beal's off. You might be onto something. And yeah, shot efficiency is whatever. It is basketball. Cold hot streaks. Will Barton's been kind of that player his whole life. But if we can get double-digit shot attempts at 4,400, I think that's fine. That would be a nice little stocking stuffer value with it. All right, cool. Let's matriculate on to the next one. Dallas Mavericks at the New Orleans Pelicans, 218.5 total. Projects 35 for the Mavs. Luka Doncic, Spencer Dinwiddie, Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith, JaVale McGee taking on maybe the homie, friend of the channel, Devontae Moonlight Graham, but probably not. CJ McCollum, Trey Murphy, Larry Nance Jr., Jonas Valanciunas. That was just a random projected lineup I yoinked. Certainly this lineup has a wide range of outcomes on how it could go. But the big news is Brandon Ingram down, Zion Williamson down. And there's no questions about it. And Herb Jones is down as well. So three starters right off the rip. I would assume without having to look it up, it's going to immediately boost the usage potential for CJ McCollum and Jonas Valanciunas. And I believe we have quite a bit of sample last year with McCollum without Ingram. And I want to say I kept going after McCollum assist props at 5.5, 6. So let's pull this back to last year. Trey Murphy season. Do you guys remember that slate last year where my boy Eric was on Trey Murphy and I was on Dwight Powell, and they both like Super Saiyan smashed? What a glorious night of profitability. McCollum on. Let's go JVal. McCollum on. Let's take off Zion. Let's take off Ingram. DeLon writes, interesting to me with his steals upside, trying to find ways to get off of Jackson and Mann. That's fair. Last year, or since the beginning of last year in this split, and Herb Jones is there, but Herb's not a big usage guy, so I don't want to distill the minutes too much, but just kind of focusing on what McCollum and JVal would do with bodies without Zion and Ingram. Last year, we had over a 1.2 and a 1.3 fantasy point per minute production rate from the two, with a 30% usage rate on McCollum, 27% on JVal, and then almost a 32% assist rate on McCollum without Ingram. So, Mr. PrizePicks, what do we got on McCollum? Assists, right? 6.5. That's kind of up there, but is that too egregious? What do I have on McCollum's assist? I have 5.3. I kind of disagree with the model there, but I also don't want to sweat that. But I do want action on McCollum and JVal at their price points, at that potential usage. And what was I about to do? Oh, I was gonna look at ownership for these two. McCollum about 30%. JVal. Where's JVal at? So I'm wondering if JVal ownership gets suppressed just based on the Luka ownership. 17%. I'll take that on a 4-gamer. So I have heavy interest in Valanciunas for sure. McCollum, JVal, and then I guess I would have to lean on what the starting lineup is, but all kinds of potential value here. Trey Murphy grades out well. Larry Nance, if he's going to be close to 30 minutes, sure. And then looking at that last Pelicans game, that went to OT. After BI went down, the second half we saw Trey Murphy play a ton of minutes. Even if you take out the 5 minutes from overtime, he played almost the entire second half outside of like 2 minutes. So the minutes equal money here. You might get Murphy at a really, really cheap opportunity for minutes, even in a maybe less than stellar matchup. So Murphy's going to grade out pretty positive. I have him second on the team right now in minute projections, and I don't disagree with it, especially with Herb Jones down as well. Also would say that without Herbert Jones, who's their best defender, that's their bulldog, the Luka matchup gets better, and it's harder to push back on that. So hard to disagree with Luka being the highest scorer on the slate from a fantasy perspective. And between me and you, I think the highest raw point scorer on a 4-game slate is extremely probable to be in the winning lineups at the end of the night. So the only way it wouldn't, in my opinion, would be is if there's like 3 guys within like 10 points of them. Maybe even 10's an aggressive number, but even in my own projections, Devin Booker is 10 points behind, Curry's 12 points behind. You know what I'm saying? So it just seems like Luka has a real strong shot at being super optimal tonight. And I think the ownership at 40-50%, it kind of pressures me to make a bold stand, whether it be all in or all out. And I don't mean literally all in, but if he ends up 40-50%, do I want a little bit of leverage on that? Or do I want to match the field? I hate matching the field in situations like that, and I feel like a punk, but something to think about. I would say especially on FanDuel, there's enough pushback for me because I can make, if SGA played, I guess the 9,600 would be an uncomfortable click, but he certainly has 50-plus fantasy point upside. Curry's a decent point guard to fill in for 50. We've seen him drop similar numbers to Luka this season already with that 61 on opening night. That was a super plus matchup. The Suns not quite as I guess I heard the Lakers were number 1 in defensive rating in short sample size with Beverly on the court. Devin Booker. So I would say guard is pretty stacked today. So there is, like, for you game theorists that do like to be anti-chalk, there is certainly several ways to skin a cat in the point guard, shooting guard position side with McCollum, Cunningham, Curry. But I feel like I'm going to be closer to the leverage on Luka than not because of this matchup being what it is. So that's where I'm at. Other Mavericks that we could play. What do you guys think? Dinwiddie, 5K. I think the 5K is the keys to the slate. Several 5K guys that we've already kind of discussed. 28 minutes for Dinwiddie in the first 2 games. The second game was very lopsided. In the first game, he had 4 fouls in 28 minutes in a tougher matchup against Phoenix. This matchup certainly much more attackable around him as well. Reggie Bullock really cheap on both sides, especially FanDuel. If he gets a shot at 30 minutes, just 30 minutes on the court against the Pelicans on a 4-gamer, will that give you 20 plus? It's very possible. Same with everyone here, literally everyone here. And then if you're really trying to chase those 100K to first, maybe Christian Wood has a case to be in your player pool, especially if the Pelicans run away. Not the Pelicans. If the Pelicans run away early. Wood showed some big point per minute production against Memphis in that last outing. Double, back-to-back games of 25 real points. What's our point prop on Wood? 17.5. I mean, I don't want to overreact on a 2-game sample size, but it feels like he's getting 6-man type of usage, right? And then on the Pelican side, I'm going to prioritize McCollum, J. Val. And I would like to have confirmation on that starting lineup. I think Murphy's going to end up being one of the higher owned players in my player pool just based on what projects like an incredibly high minute rate. And then Jose Alvarado, especially on FanDuel, if you wanted to get really backwards, I don't know if really backwards, but Alvarado is notorious for his defensive contributions. With Herb Jones down, with Ingram down, maybe there's some more guard minutes for him. He ended up with 24 against Utah. Let me look at A lot of minutes in that third and fourth quarter. So even at a 24-minute projection, but I think there's at least a chance that he could be closer to 30. And if that was the case, Alvarado last year, over a fantasy point per minute, and a lot of it is defensive metrics, blocks and steals, is very scrappy. That adds up real quick at 3,700. So if you were to build backwards from the field, I think Alvarado's an idea on FanDuel, and go a little bit cheaper there, save you money for the J-Vals, the Porzingises, and stuff like that. So something I'm going to keep in mind, but I certainly would like more questions answered with a confirmed Pelicans lineup, but I think I'm digging it. Larry Nance is interesting. He does have great per minute history, and at 5K, yeah, shot at 30. And like I said, 30 right on the nose would be more than fine for a 4-gamer. I don't want to fill my lineup out with 5K 30s, but I think a couple of spots not getting super ceiling. Herb Jones is out. Yeah, I got that right. Did I say it wrong? I might have got, yeah. Like Alvarado quite a bit. Even if Graham starts, I'm taking Alvarado over him. I agree with that. I think Alvarado is going to give you a higher floor on peripherals. Devontae is going to be more scoring dependent, and if Devontae started, I still expect CJ to be the point guard. So I would agree with that. They happen to give him more minutes. One of these games he can get 60. I agree with that as well. Christian Wood is a monster. Do you like over half one block for Wood? Over just him to get one block? I mean, that's just. I don't think I would want. If I wouldn't want 1-to-1 action or parlay action on that. But if you're getting decent odds on like a sports book, it's probably fine. Pelicans so far giving up several blocks, or high in the blocks per game allowed department, but I don't mind it, but I probably wouldn't get it on like a parlay or a PrizePicks. Jock Landale almost had a double-double, 11 minutes off the bench. To see value for tournaments. Big field tournaments where you YOLOing, sure. I probably don't. I can guarantee you I don't have Jock Landale in my player pool today. But that's good to know. If you're trying to tackle 100K to first in a 4-game slate where there's going to be a ton of duplicate lineups, I mean that's not a crazy way to think outside the box. But if you're like a 20 max or something like that, that's probably not an area I would co-sign getting to. Heard Gunna, what up, Shadow? Here. Alvarado projecting 25% right now on FanDuel. Thoughts? So, I mean, that's fine. 4-game slate. It's a lot of these guys are gonna feel chalkier just from our, our brain being wired to be expecting guys like him to be in the single digits. But 1 in 4 lineups, having a guy like Alvarado who's probably a solid stocking stuffer, I don't think that's gonna be. I think he does have a chance to break a slate with 30 fantasy points at his salary. What did we say it was? 3,700. I mean, he could push 10x, maybe 8-9x on that salary point on a good day, and that's actually kind of what I got him projected at. So I don't disagree with that. I guess a quick method for you guys to think about ownership being bad or not is to just use the ownership number that you have in your head or projection or even in your own lineups and contrast it to your probability of that person being the nuts on the slate. So is there a 25% chance that Jose Alvarado is in a winning lineup tonight based on his contribution? I would say that's a fair, on a 4-game slate, I think that's fair. So I don't think that's like bad chalk. I don't think it's bad chalk. But I also think that Alvarado and those defensive guys, I'm a little bit more inclined to like them against faster pace teams. The Mavs since the beginning of last year, not as fast. So maybe there's a little bit more bust potential that I wouldn't want to be 50-60%. But 25%, 1 to 4, I'm fine with that, especially with the minute projection. So, and Luka, it's not like Luka can't turn it over. Let's move on. Clippers at the Thunder. Projects 35 for the Clippers. Reggie Jackson, Norman Powell, Kawhi Leonard, Nick Batum, Ivica Zubac. Taking on SGA, Trey Mann, Lou Dort, Kenrich Williams, Jeremiah Robinson, Earl, 214 is our total. 8.5 spread in favor of the Clippers. Let's start with the injury report side for the Clippers. Clippers going to be a little bit more, a little bit easier to trust, I guess you would say. We know Paul George is down, and we know Marcus Morris is down. And I guess what's left is, does Kawhi start? Does Kawhi play any more minutes? Is he still off the bench? If he's still off the bench, and I think all these are possibilities. If the idea for them is to keep bringing him off the bench even when Paul George is down, just so he can close out in the fourth quarter, which it sounded like that was it, then you would probably expect Reggie Jackson, Norman Powell to be extremely involved in the starting lineup. And Norman Powell would probably be my favorite, especially at 3,900. A little bit more offensive oomph to him. So that's another lineup I would really like to have. Maybe we can read between the lines on minute rotations, but probably not, because everyone was active last game, right? You know. So I don't really think we could infer any assumptions based on what we have so far. So I just think the projection on Norman Powell is going to be super solid. I think the FanDuel Norman Powell price point is borderline broken. Is he small forward eligible? Yikes. That might be my highest owned player, bro. Small forward is like kind of a cesspool, right? Like, we're going to make cases for Lou Dort, but whatever. Trey Murphy up there for sure. I think Norman Powell might literally be my highest owned player on FanDuel here. Look at FanDuel ownerships. Yeah, he's projected pretty gosh dang high owned, so I don't necessarily, I don't feel like I'm in a hole there. But now I'm dealing with half the field holding hands with me on this player. But I get it, man. Norman Powell, what, 6-7K we've paid before in similar scenarios, so I just think it's too cheap. But I think there's a good chance Kawhi still comes off the bench, so we'll see. Steve says I have too much Batum to feel good about. Yikes. Yeah. And then Zubac. I was all giddy to play Zubac in game 2 after his big minute in game 1, and then he's followed up with 24 and 21 minutes. Let me look at those minute rotations. Powell's been trash. Man, one, we have to have goldfish memory, especially on a 3-game season. But 2, we just have to appreciate and understand the potential usage that's in front of him without... and this is just guessing. Like, if the lineup is Powell, Reggie Jackson, not a Kawhi, and we already know no Paul George. I mean, think about what's missing alone when you take out Paul George. 40 points in game 2. Phoenix is a scrappier defense. We're not going to overreact to that and then go against a literal G League team in the Thunder. So we're replacing a lot of shot volume, a lot of usage, and the price is just dumb. like one of you guys in chat probably 10x that price point against the Thunder. So it is what it is. But I understand, I always say go with your gut, so certainly don't let me be the reason that you hated Norman Powell all day, and then Gunn said he's going to play him, and now I'm tailing it. Don't do that. Go with your gut. Go with your gut. What's your favorite player prop of the day? I haven't really looked too hard. I guess we can look at McCollum or JVal. McCollum is at 10 rebounds, assists. They don't have a fantasy points for McCollum right now. That's interesting. What about JVal? 37.5 fantasy points for JVal. That looks pretty juicy. Considering we ran JVal at almost 1.4 over 1.3 fantasy points per minute. And you take off Zion, you take off BI. Utah is whatever. That's tempting. That stands out. I'll work on a list and I'll post it in the free Discord. But I'll probably just have like four leans tonight. Rocco will go off tonight. It's possible. Like, there's a couple names that I would click on. I would just really like some more clarity on the starting lineup and what we like. The starting lineup will give me enough to kind of create an expectation on what the rotation would be. And then I would also say this: if Kawhi didn't start, and like Norman Powell did, maybe we dive into like the first half props for like a guy like Norman Powell, right? He would be at 11.5 fantasy points. I would love that. If you're telling me right now that there's no Kawhi to start with, and then you're closing out with Kawhi, so that would probably make his closing minutes, Norman Powell's, a little less lucrative. And that's if the game stays competitive, 8.5 point spread, certainly could go any which way. But if the expectation is to keep Kawhi on ice so that you have him to close the game, come out in the bullpen, then it would mean probably the first half's more lucrative, and that's kind of what we saw last game. But that also involved Paul George, so maybe Norman Powell first half fantasy prop is something I would be decently high on if we got a lineup and Kawhi wasn't in the starting lineup, Yeah. All right, what else we got? Terrence Mann needs to be starting. I don't disagree with that. Do you think J-Val gets more minutes tonight? He hasn't had 30 yet. It's possible. So let's see how much. Let's see if there's any Zion at the 5 situations going on. You know what I mean? Because Larry Nance could also play big. So Zion for this stretch. I guess Zion and Nance shared the court for a couple minutes here. A couple minutes to start the 4th. Not a ton of overlap. Jackson Hayes also exists, but I don't think he was a trusted member of the rotation. This seems a little bit more circumstantial. I don't know that I would force an over 30-minute projection. I think I have him at 30 on the dot. But I would say the likelihood of him breaking 30 minutes is probably a little bit stronger today in the absence of at least of Zion. But I wouldn't want to get too crazy on that projection. We did see 35-minute J-Val last year because we were paying $8K for him. J-Val DKP by game log without. Let's put Brandon Ingram last 10 games. Would you play Kawhi if he starts? I probably would not. And that would just be on an assumption that he's still on a hard minutes limit. So unless some verbiage came out that would change that, probably would not. Yeah, I don't want to get into a big J-Val projection. Maybe J-Val first half props is it's split even. J-Val's 18.5 first half. 18.5, so that would be a 37 implied projection, right? Math. And the game projection for him is 37.5. Okay, so we're getting a deal on the first half lines. Not a deal, but we've seen them come out and start really, really strong. And a lot of designed opening plays end up going to center, so maybe first half J-Val as well. NHL time. I don't know anything about that. Verhog over shots on goal. I know what shots on goal are. William Thomas, appreciate the sub, man. Welcome aboard. All right, last game on the docket. Warriors at the Suns. Projects 35 for the Warriors. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, Kevin Looney. Taking out Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, DeAndre Ayton. 226.5 total, 1.5 point spread in favor of the home team, Phoenix Suns. That's right, favorite. Yeah, a lot to like here. Somewhat stackable in terms of seeing a couple of these guys thrive at their price point, but I think the most likely result is Steph Curry. But 6K Klay on a small slate where you just might get lost in the sauce kind of sounds intriguing, but we know we're dealing with potential minute restrictions still for guys like Klay and Green. And when I say restrictions, you know what not completely stretched out. So we got him up to 27, 20, 24, 27. So if we followed that trend of 3 minutes more, 3 minutes more, 3 minutes more, and you knew that Klay Thompson was for sure getting 30 minutes tonight, would that do anything for you at 5,800? I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. But in the scheme of a small 4-game slate, I might take a shot or two on Klay Thompson and hope he has one of those nuclear quarters. It's certainly not anomalaic. Bro Love, appreciate that sub, man. Welcome to the channel. The Sun side, Chris Paul, 7,400, 7K on both sides. Looking for 40 plus on an average day. Devin Booker's the clear-cut number 1 option. I think from the guard pool, 8,500. I'm looking for 40 plus. We're getting almost a 50-point projection. I'm gonna tweak some of these projections when I get off the air as we get closer to lock. But I don't think that's that dissimilar than most of the industry when it comes to at least the hierarchy of how this slate plays out in projections. And if we paint a picture where the Phoenix Suns are scoring 115, 116, 117 home favorites against the Warriors, you surely feel like it's on the backs of a Devin Booker, and maybe somebody like DeAndre Ayton has a spike game in a more porous matchup. But 20 plus shot attempts in every game thus far, that's a lot of volume. 30 plus real points in back-to-back games. Feels a little bit more scoring dependent than not, but it's there. 9K on DraftKings feels a little bit tougher because we're so conditioned and programmed to need and want that 50. But I think if there's a night where a 9K 45 48 is more optimal, or is optimal, it could be a night like tonight where there's a smaller slate and probably smaller list of guys that even break the 40s or the 45. So not off limits on either site. Somebody had asked about boom bust though, and I guess it would be somewhat fair to think of Booker as, when we look at ownerships on this slate, Booker was a third owned on DraftKings and almost half owned on FanDuel. So Luka's in that category as well. Luka's a little higher owned. If I told you Devin Booker was 50% owned on any given slate and Luka Doncic is 50% owned in any given slate, which guy is more likely to bust? I would say Devin Booker, just because his ceiling usually is directly correlated with 30, 35 fantasy points, whereas Luka is a triple-double threat that's going to raise the floor with those rebounds and those assists. So maybe I give the field back some Booker just to grab some more Luka leverage. I don't know. What are you guys thinking? What's your guts telling you on Booker? Let me pull up Phoenix here. Phoenix had an OT game against Portland, and then against the aforementioned Mavericks, we saw Booker. I'll say the minutes are really nice on Booker. 40 minutes in Game 3, Game 4 of the season is just almost unheard of. So that's an opportunity that I do like, but I feel like the price isn't inefficient. Do we want to look up a history? Devin Booker, BVP, baby. DKP by Game Log versus Warriors. Let's go last 10 games. 67 last game out. 41 minutes, 37 real points. He had 11 assists. That was in March. Was Chris Paul out? Chris Paul was out, and he was playing with Tyler Johnson, Kelly Oubre, Dragon Bender. That wasn't last game, by the way. That was years back. So there's a couple high 40s, but I'm just thinking boom bust probability in my head. A 9K 40 seems somewhat expendable on a 4-game slate, even though it could still probably get to the top. If I had to make an ownership-based decision between Devin Booker or Luka, I feel like I would cut Devin Booker, and it would make me whisper. Not this beat though. One of those beats with the most I don't dig. 2v2 Curry, Wiggins versus Paul and Ayton. So Ayton's intriguing to me on both sides. I'm getting a really solid projection, and I think if I'm going to be lighter on Devin Booker, and I still want to let the game totals and stuff tell a little bit of a story, well then I'm not gonna short the Suns on too many points. And where can I make up those points? Well, Ayton might be that guy. A little lower owned than Devin Booker. And so far, points in the paint allowed by the Warriors, I think if we look at the team metrics chart, they're right up there. And I think they're a little bit undersized, right? Golden State allowing the 5th most points in the paint per game so far. So maybe it is a positive spot for Ayton to kind of be a double leverage opportunity for us at 6,700. Against the Clippers, not so much, but 40 and 36. Both of those, I think those dogs will hunt on a slate like this. So Ayton might be the guy. Why did I say that? Because the question was Curry and Wiggins or Paul and Ayton. I would love Curry, Ayton. But I guess in that one, Curry, Wiggins. Wiggins is still going to play big minutes here. But I don't love his price point at all. But if just strictly on that 2v2, I would probably want the Curry side. Although the floor does feel a little bit safer on the Paul and Ayton side. That's a good one, Jason. Wiseman was in my first build. 18-minute projection in my early run. Against the Clippers, Wiseman got... I'm looking at the Clippers. Wiseman. Wait, I'm looking at the Suns. What the Huda? There we go. 19 minutes against in the last game. Yeah. Like, I think you know what you're getting into at 44, 4,500. You're hoping for 20 plus. That's fine. Booker, just because that Mavs-Pels game can blow out Suns and Warriors. I guess that's fair. We just watched the Mavericks drop $1.5 billion on a Ja Morant team. Even though the Ja Morant team was on a back-to-back, and I think a 3 and 4. The Pelicans team without BI and Zion is certainly depleted. But at the same time, wasn't that Luka blowout? Or that Luka game against Memphis? He only played 30 minutes. It was a blowout, and he still dropped 65. You know what I mean? So it's like not impossible for him to still be the highest scorer in just 30 minutes. So maybe I don't want to overrate that, especially on the road. Someone like Luke Kennard is going to go off tonight, ruin 95% of my lineups. Oh, Luke Kennard. All right, so I got to get you guys out of here. I didn't realize it was past the 4 o'clock hour. So, yeah, if you're going to hang around on YouTube, go check out the deeper dive on the Stochastic channel. I'm going to be in the RunDFS.com VIP Discord voice chat. You guys want to jump in there, get behind the paywall. Looks like Fish fans are already waiting on me. Let's say hi. Wait, hold on. Fish, say hi to YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
There we go. He's in the car. All right, I'll be right back. All right, chat. Hey, man, I appreciate you guys making part of my day be part of your day. When all your players need about 45, 50 points to win a GPP, I think, Chris, I was touching on that earlier. I don't know if that's always the case on a 4-game slate. It's definitely not always the case. You can probably get a lower scoring cash line or lower scoring first place on the slate like this. So that mindset is not incorrect, but it's more so for the 10 game, 12 game slates, you know? Can you show us a potential lineup on FanDuel? A potential lineup. So real quick, what I would do is I would go to my projections. I would probably find 3 or 4 of the top value plays, points per dollar. And it's going to be Alvarado, Norman Powell, maybe Reggie. I don't want to give up 2 value point guards. So Alvarado, Norman Powell. I'll give you a core that I would be okay with to start with. Give me the highest scorer in Luka, 2 of the top projected values. I do like Porzingis quite a bit. Like, the fact that he's not the most expensive power forward guy on this slate is saying a lot. 6'7" first. So I would probably start with that core and go from there. Luka needs, 67 to be 6x? Get off the 6x, especially on a slate like this. If Luka Doncic leads this slate in fantasy points by close to 10 fantasy points, he's in the winning lineup. He just is. The 6x stuff is like for 4 to 7K players. The raw points start to matter. So when guys are busting through 50, 60 fantasy points, those dogs will hunt, and they'll likely end up optimal at the end of the night because there's going to be value that overshoots. But anyway, I got to get out of here, y'all. I appreciate you guys giving me some of your time today. I love you guys. Tell somebody out there you love them. Good luck. God bless. And go win some money.